Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Political Nerd. You know what? Tonight we have a special guest. We actually do work for this company. And if you're watching on Patriot.tv, you're watching it, and this is the man, the legend, that is actually one of the owners of Patriot.tv. I'm going to bring on Mark Schaftlein. He is the host of the Schaftlein Report. And actually, before the election, Mark, you were doing the election edge, right? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was. Thanks for having me on your show, John.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. So I'm going to let Mark talk about his background because to me it's fascinating. Everybody that's watched our channels for a long time knows that I like to be the nerd side, and sometimes I like to talk about some financials. But the real root of it is knowing someone that knows how to do it. So, Mark, let's talk about what your background before television was.
Yeah, so I've actually run a private equity firm, Capital Consulting Inc., for the past 26 years. We've been in business for that long. I'm the CEO of Capital Consulting Inc. And basically, what we do, we invest in small growth companies. We've been doing it now for 25 years. These are companies that are not household names at all. They're small capitalization companies. We take aggressive positions with these companies. And in many cases, if our bets have paid off, then we can get really handsome return on those, John. And then what we do is we take the profits. We're a Florida-based company, so we take the profits from the trading business and the investment business, and we put it into Florida real estate. So, we try to use the real estate and some of the gold investments as a hedge against inflation and the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. So it's high risk, high reward, and we've had the company for 25 years. Now, how did I get into the media business? This is fascinating. I'll give you just a real quick story. My girlfriend, Tram Ho, she lives in Southern California. She's been part of the television industry for 20 years, 25 years. So she kept telling me, look, you know all these political issues. You know everything going on. You know the political figures. Why don't you get on camera and start talking about it? So my first gig in television was at a place called Viet News TV, and this was back in the last election when Donald Trump was running against Joe Biden. Okay, so we're covering it. They like the commentary. I'm giving international commentary because it goes all over the globe. Next thing I know, Viet News TV says, man, we really like your show. Can you come on a second show? I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then they said, well, we'd like you to have your own show. So next thing I know, I'm doing 3 shows a day on Viet News TV, and I'm having to go through all that, and it was a lot of fun. So when I was doing my own show, I started talking about the U.S. elections. We actually were on the air January 6th. When that happened, I had correspondents in the field, and one thing led to another, and I came across a group called AMP News, and they knew that I had some intros in media. Long story in a short, we had a company called Conservative Broadcast Media and Journalism. We had made an investment in that company. We ended up acquiring this small little media company called AMP News. And then subsequent to that, we ended up acquiring a company called Patriot TV. So that's sort of the genesis about how we got involved. And John, as you're well aware, I was a finance guy, and I was sort of, the guy raising the money and paying the bills. But over the last year, I had the pleasure of understanding the nuts and bolts and learning how the media business actually works day to day. And folks, there's a lot of ways you can skin the cat in the media business. I know John's talked to you about all that, but it's been an eye-opening experience. So don't believe anything you hear on these mainstream legacy media. John, as we've talked, everything is on streaming, it's on the net, and that's where you're going to get your best information.
So I'm gonna hit back to your financial side, and because you said small companies, and then you said the word gold. So it's going to be a 2-pronged question. My first is what do you think about crypto?
I was initially skeptical of crypto because I didn't understand it. I'm like, let's take Bitcoin, for example. There's 21 million Bitcoins across the globe. I sort of started adopting. I said, okay, well, let me research this, study a little bit. And the more I studied it, the more I realized I knew nothing about it. In other words, when I buy a stock or a bond, I can analyze the company, look at a price earnings ratio. I can see what their sales are, what their expenses are, how the stock trades. On gold, it's been around forever. What's gold worth? It's worth what someone's willing to pay for it because it doesn't throw off any intrinsic value like an interest rate. Crypto was a little bit different. It was a completely decentralized, I'll use platform, if you will. There was really no track record of how it would be valued. I saw swings where it could go up 80% in a month and fall 70% the next. So I really struggled with it. But once institutional investors started saying, well, wait a minute, the largest ones, the Bitcoins of the world, we have to have that as part of our portfolio. I'm like, look, I can either deny it because I don't know it, or I can try to adapt to it and trade it. Well, I chose the latter, but we really tried to, John, focus on just the largest of the large, because what happened was so many imitation and tiny crypto coins came up. They invented coins out of people's basements. You had no idea how many of them existed. And anyone that would ask me for recommendations, unless you just have like playing around money, a few hundred, a few $1,000 you want to play with.
Right.
You're not going to lose a minute of sleep if you lose the entire amount. I said, you want to play that way, that's fine. But so many people decided to adapt it. And the word of caution I want to use, John, is take a look at what's happened in Bitcoin over the past 30 days. It rallied, topped out at about, I think, $108,000, $109,000 per coin. Now it's trading down in the 80, 85,000 range. And people say, Mark, where could it go? I said, well, as fast as it went up, generally there's a rule on Wall Street. You take the escalator up, meaning prices will gradually go up, but you take the elevator down. So people say, well, it's trading 80. Is it a bargain? It may or may not be, but I do know this. I was on another show, and the show was asking me, would you be shocked if it went to 70,000? I told him I wouldn't be shocked if it went to 30,000.
Wow.
Because it is so decentralized, and there's you don't have a lot of historical data behind it. Excuse me. One thing I have noticed, that it trades very similar. I'm going to throw some names out there to some companies your viewers may have heard of. NVIDIA, Palantir. If you look at the charts of NVIDIA, Palantir, Aplova, it almost trades in sync with these companies. So you have a lot of algorithmic traders out in the world who will buy baskets of crypto, of certain stocks. But the interesting thing I learned when I researched it, John, when you put the charts and lay them over each other, they look very similar. So if someone says to me, well, what do you think Bitcoin's going to do? I'll say, take a look at the NVIDIA chart, take a look at the Palantir chart, and it gives you some clues. Now, again, Bitcoin is not a regulated thing. And Donald
Right.
Trump came out on Friday and he said, hey, we're going to establish what he said on the campaign trail. We want to have a crypto asset back for the United States government. Well, John, when the president says that and big Wall Street firms have adopted, like they're called exchange traded funds, where one of them is BITO, one of them is BTC. In other words, the average American who may want to say, oh, look, I don't have $85,000. How am I going to buy Bitcoin? You can buy fractional pieces of it through some of these ETFs like BTC or BITO or any of the other like well-known firms like BlackRock and State Street and Fidelity. And I started opening my eyes. I said, when BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, the U.S. government, they're institutionalizing now Bitcoin, and a company like MicroStrategy. As crazy it may seem, John, MicroStrategy they went out and raised money for the purpose of buying more Bitcoin, and the company already is a heavy investor in it. So I would say this to your audience: stick with the well-known names, because those names will be here. And again, John, you don't get to 85, 100,000, not like we had a few weeks ago,
Right.
if there's not some substance there.
And so, well, you hit my two prong right on the around the back, because I was going to ask, because we heard President Trump was going like, well, we'll make the United States the leading crypto. So now, I mean, is that something that's going to be nationally available to every citizen, or are our 401ks going to be back inside of that now, or is it just going to be, well, if it's just for the private sector?
That's a really good question. And I don't think we know the answer on it yet because in some like self-directed funds that we manage, we're not allowed to buy crypto for those funds through different places like Charles Schwab or some other institutions because they don't allow it under those type of situations. But other investment firms are starting to allow it. And you mentioned the U.S. government. One thing I learned from President Trump in the conference, they're not going to take, quote, U.S. dollars and go out and buy Bitcoin because, look, the country's got a pretty severe debt problem right now. But what they are going to do, and I read this, and again, a lot of this stuff, John, is still very new. Any Bitcoin which is seized as part of an illegal transaction, and there is a lot of that going on,
Right.
the U.S. government will be their initial stockpile of Bitcoin as they seize those assets. So it'll be one where you sort of build it up over a period of time. Because, John, we have noticed this because it's so international and there's been a lot of, quote, smoke with fire. A lot of law enforcement agencies have said that money launderers, this is a favorite tool because it is so decentralized and it's impossible for governments to track it.
Wow.
So I think we're still in the very early stages. Bear in mind, gold's been around for thousands of years.
Yep.
And a lot of people are equating crypto to gold, and you can do that.
Okay.
But it's really too new to rate. I think you got to be, again, stick with the bigger ones, John. Those are going to be around. Be careful with the smaller ones. I know everybody likes to trade Dogecoin, and Elon Musk formed it, and Shiba, and some of these other ones, but they're going to pale in comparison to institutional money.
Right.
And when institutional investors step up, that's really where your telltale is going to be.
Yeah, we talked about so in the nerd world, we have the Hawk 2 girl, right? So the Hawk 2 girl, she went out there, got a little famous, got a little money, and then she did her own coin. And then went belly up, and I think now I think she's looking at prison time because it was fraud. So that's the one you're talking about. Everybody coming up with their own crypto.
Yeah, it was her, and then she's not alone. There's a lot of Chinese that created coins. Look, that's why I'm saying, some of them, they get out there and there's a tendency among retail investors to buy the hottest thing in the market at that particular time.
Right.
Well, guess what? It gets cold as fast as it gets hot. So, when they're bringing out these new coins and you're starting to hear them touted, be careful. Well, it's the old saying, let the buyer beware.
Yeah. Because
when I look at things like that and I say, well, listen, I can go in and I can buy fractions of Bitcoin that I know there's like 21, 22 million coins and they're not creating a whole lot more of them. So you can say, okay, 21 million coins times $85,000. You know what the market capitalization of Bitcoin is, and it's not going to change. Where if you buy ABC coin that got created by China or somewhere in the Middle East or anywhere, you have no idea how many of these coins. So if you start bidding them up, they can create more coins. It almost becomes like a Ponzi scheme, John, where they put the coins out there. Unsophisticated investors will end up buying them thinking, oh, wow, this is the newest thing. And then they go belly up. Yeah. Something tells me Bitcoin's not going to go belly up. No. Or maybe an Ethereum or something along those lines of higher priced securities, higher priced coins. I think those things will be around.
Okay. Well, to me, I think the next big investment everybody's making is chickens.
Yes.
I got chickens, and that's the best thing I ever did. I don't think I've bought eggs in 6 months, almost a year now. So it's like, just get 6 chickens. I mean, for God's sake, 2 would make you actually happy if you're a family of 2. So,
well, we talked about this, John. When the Biden administration went out there and killed 150 million chickens, what did you expect?
Right.
I mean, I get people on both sides of the aisle blaming the other side. You had Democrat. Look, Biden deserved a lot of blame for a lot of things, and egg prices was certainly one of them. But when I hear Democrats come out and they blame Trump for egg prices, I'm saying, wait a second. He didn't kill 150 million
Mm-mm.
chickens, and hens
Mm-mm.
lay these eggs. And it is going, even the Treasury Secretary, John, came out and said, folks, it's going to take a little time to solve this egg problem because it's supply and demand. But you
Right.
know what, John? This problem will get solved. And I would venture to say this: 6 months from now, I don't think the price of eggs is going to be as high as it is right now because come hell or high water, people are going to figure out, hey, maybe we need to import more eggs. Maybe we need to get some chickens laying them back again. Supply and demand will eventually come about. And I'll predict it here on your show tonight. I think 6 to 9 months from now, we're going to see eggs back down in that $3 a dozen
And you
range.
know what? I'm going to back you on that because I'm in my family, especially my Georgia family, we're all chicken people, right? So so here we go. You're going to get a farm lesson, right? So when you get a brand new chick, from the time that chick hatches, it takes 6 months before it lays its first egg. So if they went and decimated, from what I understand, they decimated almost a third, if not a little bit more, of the chicken world. So when they get rid of all those, now you've got to bring them back, and then you've got to sex them, and then you've got to put them in the houses, and then you've got to feed them. It's 6 to 7 months if you get one egg. So I 100% agree. I think 6 to 9 months, this is not going to be a problem. But if and I've said this on my other shows, if I had my druthers, I'll go out and buy more chickens. And if you're in an area where you're rural enough that you can do that, I have a friend right now that she's in Port Richey. She has 7 chickens, right? And she has more eggs than she knows what to do with. So, and it's kind of amazing. So I put this to a breeder friend of mine. I'm like, okay, so growing up around chickens, I understand this word. I don't know how we got on chickens, but we're on chickens, right? So if your chickens are birthed, bred, birthed, and they maintain in the same facility, where's the chicken flu coming from? Because there's no outside. Because if you know anything about these, and trust me, when I go home tonight, I'm going to literally drive by 25. I counted them last night, 25 chicken farms, and those are not free range. They're inside the houses. Well, when everybody that goes in is inoculated and carry, you can't go in there if you're sick. If nobody is touching these birds and the food is going in as sterilized food, how are these chickens getting sick? It kind of makes you start going,
Yeah.
were they really sick?
Yeah. the only thing, I would think about that though, did you ever think the price of eggs was going to be a big issue in a presidential
No,
campaign?
sir.
No.
I would have never in a million years going, you know what? People are going to be blaming him for chicken prices and egg prices. No, I would have never said that in a million years.
But you know what? They did. And it was not that hard of a calculation. Trump's out there on the campaign trail going, well, what do you expect? Biden killed 150 million chickens. What do you
Yeah.
think the price is going to do? And it's stuck.
Yep.
And, people, they're already fed up with the federal government. They're already knowing that Trump's going to come in and clean house. They're tired of, seeing our borders overrun. So Trump's sitting here, think about pre the election, John. The price of eggs is through the roof. You got people crossing that border by the tens of thousands every day. Cost of living is high.
Yeah.
What did people actually think was going to happen when we had an
It's
election?
like, oh, it's all fixed. Ugh.
Yeah.
No. So my next question to you is coming from a financial side of it. How do you think, in honest answer, how do you think Elon's doing with Doge?
I love what Elon's doing with Doge. I mean, look, think about this guy for a second. Does he have to be doing this? No. He is taking every arrow that you could possibly get coming from the Democrats and even some Republicans. The man doesn't have to be doing this, and yet here he is. Now, I do know this, and I'm going to share some inside information with your viewers. Elon Musk is very, very good friends with Donald Trump. Again, John, I had an opportunity to be at a Donald Trump property this past week, and I was talking to some of the security there. And, turns out that Donald Trump and Elon Musk were at the same place I was the day before. Musk doesn't play golf, but, he rode around with Trump just talking to him. And did you notice that Trump cabinet meeting when they had the very first cabinet meeting, and Elon Musk is not a cabinet officer, and Trump sat there and said, "Boy, isn't Elon doing a great job? And by the way, any of you cabinet secretaries have a problem with Elon, you better come around, because if you're not cutting enough, I'm going to tell Elon to cut more." Elon
Wow.
Musk has Donald Trump's complete
Yeah.
confidence. And look, people say a lot of things about President Trump, but one thing he does above anything else, he respects wealth.
Yeah.
No one is as wealthy as Elon Musk. John, think about this. Even with the precipitous drop in the price of Tesla stock,
Yeah.
he's still the wealthiest guy in the world. And
Yep.
that says a lot. I mean, you've got the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, these people in Dubai. I mean, for Musk to have achieved that, you've got to be a very smart guy. And think about this too, John. He walks around, he doesn't dress in like a suit or something like that. He has tech support. That's
Yeah.
what he's wearing. So Elon Musk is a nerd type guy. I mean, he is doing this for the good of the country. And you know how, John, I know he's doing an effective job is when I see Democrats shooting the proverbial arrows at him. I see him going on legacy media. I see him going on new media. And when they're criticizing Musk and it's coming from Democrats, that tells me he's up to something. And I
Yeah.
look at some of these things. The reason they're criticizing him, John, is because he's uncovering things that the American public, whether you're left, center, or right, have long suspected, that we've had crooked politicians
Right.
that have passed these momentous budgets that are, the country's $36 trillion in debt. How did we get there? Because people on both sides of the aisle were padding these bills and giving it to donors. What did Musk and his team uncover the other day? $2 billion to a Stacey Abrams backed political action committee that had $100 in sales. And people say, well, Mark, that's impossible. No, it is. It's very possible. And Musk has they found organizations where funds were represented to be going for one event and they end up being diverted to another. And this is just, John, the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
That's why Musk is doing a good job. And I've even heard just over the last 24 hours, even some Republicans, they've gotten into shouting matches with him. Why are they doing that? Because he is peeling the onion. He is taking layers and opening up, and people are saying, oh my God, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was going to be that bad.
Right.
So long answer to a short question. I love what Elon Musk is doing. I'd love to have 20 more Elon Musks out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And is it messy? Yes. Do they sometimes cut and then have to rehire people? Yes. Is he taking a private company mentality to a government agency or a government? Yes. There's tendencies to have problems because there's clashes, John, when that happens. But you know what? I saw a poll, and we talked about this on Schaftlein Report. 2/3 of the American people approve of Doge and what Elon Musk is doing. John, you and I know it's tough to get 2/3 of this country to agree on anything.
Yep.
So if I'm Elon Musk and Donald Trump, I feel pretty good about Doge.
Yeah, I love it was Kennedy that said when you cut the fat on the pig squeals. So if you got no, I mean, we're going back to the nerd world. Haters are going to hate, and the only reason they're going to hate is because they've been found out. So it's to me, it's like I want this dude to go in as deep as he needs to go deep, get rid of who. And you're right. So sometimes you got to do a sweeping clean, and then you bring back what you need, and that's
John,
just normal.
John, think about this too. In your lifetime, have you ever seen the Democratic Party with a 21% approval rating?
No.
No, I have not. And Donald Trump is sitting here at 54, 55%. And I've seen it on legacy media and on new media, when you stack up the major issues that Trump campaigned on,
Right.
I'll start with illegal immigration, trimming the expenses and fat in the federal government, improving efficiency. He's getting like 80% of the American public saying, I agree with what he's trying to do.
Right.
Do the American public want dollars continuing to go to Ukraine and spending money on needless wars? No. Did the American public want the border control? Well, John, in just 6 weeks, border crossings are down 95%. So when you put these graphics up there, Trump is delivering on what the American people want. Is there going to
Yep.
be some pain? Yes, there is going to be some pain. Are there going to be some people hurt? Yes, but in the long run, our country will be better off for this.
Yeah, sometimes when you gotta slim down and do the right thing, it hurts. I mean, and it's and you but you just don't quit because it happens. You have to go. Okay, it's for the. It's remember you probably never got in trouble. I was a preacher's kid, so I was always in troubles. And my dad was always like, "Well, this hurts me more than it hurts you." And back then, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't think so. I think you're just making that up." And now once I had my own kids, it's like, ah, you hate getting on to them, but you got to because you got to set them straight. You got to run things the right way, and then then down the road you go, see how much better you turned out because yeah, I was a little bit mean, but you know what? You never went to jail. You never did drugs. You got a good job. You got a good wife. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't when we're younger because when we're younger and dumber, and you don't have to be young or dumb, but you don't see that long picture. Everybody wants to play the short game. What is in it for me right now? How's this going to help me right now? But if you look at that long range and that long game, you go, oh, I can see where it's going. So hey, tell everybody what night you're on, so we can go and watch you.
Well, we're actually on Saturdays and Sundays, 3 o'clock Eastern time. It's Schaftlein Report. It's on Patriot TV. And John, again, for your audience that may not know it, John produces a heck of a lot of great programming for Patriot
Thank you.
TV. And he produces Schaftlein Report, has for a long time. We're thrilled with everything that John and his team are doing at Area 52. And a little treat, John, for your listeners, we're going to be putting more programming for Area 52 on Patriot TV as we move forward. And we can't thank you enough, John, for the exposure at Patriot and for everything that you're doing.
You're welcome. Hey, everybody. Go watch Patriot.tv. Go watch Mark. We got great content on there. We'll see everybody next week on The Political Nerd.